All right. Y'all ready for the new series? All right. Somebody said, let's get it. I'm ready. I'm ready. All right. So over the next 4 or so weeks, we are going to be diving into this series called Who Hurt You and Who Healed You. Now, I want to first start out this week talking about this word called vulnerability, right? Now, vulnerability, let's just break it down. It's the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. Now, I know that you're saying, oh my goodness, what did I just get myself into? All right? We're talking about vulnerability, but it's something that is so important. Vulnerability is that quality. Whether we realize it or not, it's one of the most critical and important things that we have to lean into if we are going to experience real fulfillment and real intimacy in relationship and in connection. So important that even God himself, risking being vulnerable, created humanity with a free will to choose whether they would love him or not. And so even he opened himself up because of the opportunity, because of the blessing, because of the richness of love that is not forced. In order to receive unforced love, true love, you have to give the openness and you have to give the opportunity for vulnerability. So we're going to dive into that, and I want us to understand first that when we talk about vulnerability, it blesses us and helps us to see intimacy in relationships. Now, intimacy is not just sex, right? Let's get that out of the way. Now, let me just go ahead and give you this caveat today. We do have Kid City. So if you're concerned about your children and what they're going to hear, because we're about to get real in a minute, Kid City is open, and they have educational professionals over there with a 52-week curriculum to help your little ones help find and follow God, right? Right? So intimacy isn't just sex, right? But it's also closeness. It's also conversation. It's self-disclosure. It's allowing somebody to be able to see your cracks, your inconsistencies, your flaws, right? Intimacy is also spending time. It's revealing my secrets. It's revealing my secrets. And many people, they struggle to find intimacy because they're afraid to be vulnerable, right? I'm reminded of, and as I was preparing this message, and our teaching team has been working on this message series. Like, look, I've been on the psychologist's couch, right? This whole time. God has been working on me, and Pastor JoJo, I was be talking to her. I'm like, do I do this? Is this, do you see this in me? Like, am I, what's going on, right? During this time, I've also been reflecting on something that happened to me when I was 5 years old. And I can trace it back to the point of where I built up this thing called a super self. And a super self is simply a persona. It is a facade. It is a character that you want people to see on the outside that has been created because of the challenges with vulnerability and intimacy. Where you also have a normal self, that's the real one that God created and that he wants to bless, and the one that he created and formed and shaped a purpose for. So at 5 years old, I remember living in Ohio, a little kid, and I was blessed with having my great aunt and uncle live right next door to us. My mom being a single mom at the time, and she leaned heavily on my great aunt and uncle, my aunt Minnie and my uncle Wiley, right? They were country folks, right? Wiley Thornton, right? And I saw them as an extension of a mom and dad. Listen, they loved me so much that in their presence, I felt like I could take on the world, you all, because of their love and their care for me and always thinking about me, not just the gifts that they would give, but the time spent with me. And I remember just feeling like such of a whole person at the age of 5. And then a little bit later on, I got the news that as my mom, she had been dating this guy, and he was from Milwaukee, that she would get married, and they had gotten married, and at the age of 6, we moved from Ohio to Milwaukee. And I didn't want to go. And everything within me, I still remember standing here this day, looking out the back window of the car as we left the only house that I had known on a trip, on a road to a place that I had never been before. And so I remember that distinctly in my mind. And then I remember later on that year, further on, as I was 6 years old, overhearing conversation between my mom and my great aunt Minnie saying that Uncle Wiley's health had taken a turn for the worse. And I remember these conversations. I remember the television shows that were playing on the TV at that time. I remember standing in the middle of the hallway in tears. I remember because Uncle Wiley, he was one, listen, he was a hunter. Like, he knew how to do everything, you all. And so he was this strong individual. And you know, sometimes those strong individuals, like, they're not going to stay in the hospital without a little ruckus. Right? And so Uncle Wiley, like, every now and then I would hear and overhear these conversations. Yeah, Wiley is, taking the tubes out of his arm again, or he's, standing up trying to get out of the hospital again. And those kind of people. And some of us were, kind of some of those kind of people. But over time, what began to happen is while he was doing that, his health continued to suffer until one day we got the call that your Uncle Wiley didn't make it. And so that devastated me as a child. I still remember here at the age that I am right now, I remember the dreams that I would have of my backyard in Milwaukee and seeing Uncle Wiley come up to the backyard and he would smile at me. And then he would turn around, walk down the alley, and then he would disappear in the distance. And I would wake up so heavy. And what I didn't realize is that being so vulnerable and open to a love of someone who cared for me so much, that when that happened, when he passed, somewhere in my unconscious self, I said, I will never be hurt that way again. And when I said I will never be hurt that way again, I started building up this super self. Nothing could hurt me. I don't care what you say. You know that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but what? And y'all know that that's a lie. But we say some crazy stuff like that. But I remember building up that super self in an effort to protect my real self that was really, really hurting. I remember that. I remember years later that as I'm still processing this, because some of us, we were just taught by our parents or guardians or whomever, we've been taught by life to just grin and bear it, to just put your head down and power through it. And especially as men, we have been taught to do not show emotion and do not show that anything is wrong with you. And over years, I remember that happening until the time when my great Aunt Minnie, that she started getting ill. And what I was doing over these years when I said that I would never be hurt like that again, I remember beginning to distance myself from her. The one that I love, the one that loved me so much, the one that would pour my cereal in the morning and watch the cartoons with me before she would take me to the bus stop, that one. And I remember trying to get up enough courage to go and see her in Ohio before she passed, and not making it before she passed. I remember that. And I remember how this super self that I had constructed actually was robbing me and actually perpetuating the pain that I said that I would never experience again. It was perpetuating that pain instead of it being a solution. It was making it worse. So there's some of us here today, and yeah, we're going for it. There's some of us here today that somewhere in your life or somewheres multiple times where there has been a traumatic event in your life and you have told yourself that I will never hurt that way again. So you constructed another you. You built someone up that the general population and maybe even those loved ones, that they would encounter that, but they would never really see who you are. And so that's why, because we live with those super selves for so long, that's why when crisis hits and we see ourselves doing things seemingly like we're watching a movie, but it's actually us seeing us do things out of character. We're looking around and we're saying, who is this and who am I? And so we war and we wrestle when crisis hits, not knowing us anymore because we've become so comfortable, so familiar with doing the super self, and we no longer even realize who the real self is anymore. But I believe that on this journey, for these next few weeks, that we are going to not only get to the pain points, but we're going to get to places of healing as well. If we're going to heal, we have to dig past the pain to discover who we really are. So let's talk about Samson. Let's talk about Samson. Because here, Samson is an individual that I believe is very close. His life experience very close to many of ours. Now, Samson, this isn't the one that we're talking about today, and I believe we're going to touch on kind of some areas of his life that are, may not have been talked about that much, and especially in Sunday school. This isn't the Sunday school version of Samson. This isn't the one, right? But he was what is called a judge. And at a certain period in Israel's history, before they had kings, they had these individuals called judges. So they were like part leader, but also part warrior, right? So they would instruct and lead in this, and God allowed this season of Israel's life because they were under oppression of different people groups that were surrounding them at the time. So God allowed there to be judges, and he anointed or empowered individuals to do this stuff. So they could lead, but also you mess with the people, they'd be about it too, right? And this is who Samson was. So where we find Samson, we find him, I want to kind of get to his life when he started making some decisions and some choices that maybe many of us can relate with. So we find him in Judges chapter 14 at verse 1. We find him as an adult, and here is what happened. It says, Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. Samson was a man. Samson was somebody who knew what he wanted. All right? He was a no-nonsense kind of person. He knew exactly what he wanted. You know, he had seen this woman. He took out the paper. Do you like me? Yes or no? And she, checked the box yes. And like, cool, okay. What's next? Verse 3 says, his father and mother replied, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistine to get a wife? Now, again, understand that during this time in history that the Philistines were oppressing the Israelites. So his father was saying, look, you're trying to make a connection or link up with someone who their people group doesn't really like us that much. And there's going to be some trouble. There's going to be some problems. But Samson, not to be denied, but Samson said to his father, get her for me. Right? He said, let me make the sentence shorter. Get her for me. She's the right one for me. Verse 4 then says, his parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion or an opportunity to confront the Philistines, for at the time they were ruling over Israel. Now, let me help you understand something. In looking at these scriptures, we also understand that to mean that Samson, with his one-track mind, God was going to use that even if it was Samson's decision to do that. God didn't force him to do that. But sometimes God uses our mistakes, our challenges sometimes, to get a larger plan or purpose across. That's not his perfect will, but sometimes we operate in a permissive will. Now, let me help you. Don't operate in a permissive will as a way of life, because there are still consequences that come with you operating in a particular area where God didn't necessarily ordain it, but God is going to use it. God will use anything, right? Right, so this is what happens. So time passes, they get married, and then the trouble starts. Now, his dad told him, now, son, I told you. But this is what happens. Judges 15, verse 1. Later on, at the time of wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. Kid City is still available. He said, I'm going to my wife's room. But her father would not let him go in. Here's what the father said. I was sure you hated her, he said, that I gave her to your companion. What? I was sure you hated her, so I let your friend let your friend have her as a wife. Now, how many of us in here would be a little bit irritated by that? Just a bit. So he said, I gave her to your companion. Not even a stranger. To somebody that Samson, you knew, and they knew that you were married. And I gave her to him, and he didn't tell you, and she didn't tell you. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. Oh my goodness. So you know it's about to be trouble. Samson, for those of us who don't understand, Samson was anointed or empowered by God with superhero strength. So he was like an X-Men, right? He was like one of the Avengers. Like there was not a person on the planet that could overcome him when they were going matching strength for strength. There was no one. So you know that you done took this man's wife. It's about to be some drama, right? So the challenge here is Samson now, who has given his heart to someone that he loved. We see this from the previous chapter. We see this from the previous verses. Many times when we have a gift, many times when we are in leadership, many times when people look up to us, there is a certain level of us, a certain area of us that most people see, but then there's a secret side of us. There's a tender side of us. There's a vulnerable side of us. And that when you are in a place of being empowered by God, you know that you have a future and that God has given you something that you can't just share the vulnerable piece of you with everybody. And here we have a man with superhuman strength. The only person that he could really let his hair down with and share with, she's now married to his friend. And nobody thought that it was important enough to tell him. We've been in some places where we've been cheated on. We've had some times where we felt abandoned. We've had those times. And so here he is. Because nobody makes you angrier than those that are close to your heart. Here he is. His heart is hurting. And I'm sorry if you're not there yet, you will be. If it hadn't happened yet, I'm sorry to tell you, because we live in a fallen and a broken world. There will be something that will hurt your heart so badly that you are contemplating, God, is it even worth it being around here anymore? And here he is. But we see that this begins to be a downward spiral for his life, because your superpower will be a force of harm when you are not healed. And here, in verse 3, we see this. Judges 15:3. Samson said to them, "This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." You ever been so mad that you couldn't figure out a good adjective or adverb? So you just said really or very? He was mad. Watch what he did. Verse 4, so he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. Look, he took some time, you all. He went on a hunt. You know, it took time to find 300 foxes. And so he took 300 foxes, tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails. and lit the torches. Somebody say petty. Now, I know I'm in a room where we have done some petty things before. I'm in a room where there's been some bleach on some clothes before. I'm in a room where some tires have been punctured before. Some paint has been keyed and scratched up off the car before. I'm in a room and I'm on the stream right now where I know you might have started out with both of y'all on the same mobile plan, and then all of a sudden, without notice, that second subscription got cut off. You ain't in the family no more. And so Samson, he lit the torches, you all. He lit the torches and let the foxes loose into the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and the standing grain together with the vineyards and the olive groves. He burned up their entire harvest for that year. Burned it up. He said, "Oh, you took my woman? I got you." He thought of something wild to do, and we know that some of our minds be thinking of some wild stuff to do. God help us. But out of hurt, because anger is a secondary emotion, and that anger really points to a root of hurt, a feeling of abandonment, a feeling of loneliness and loss, and the fear that you will never be loved again. But anger is what everybody else sees. Foxes running through crops with tails on fire is what everybody else sees. But inside, if we're honest, and this is a safe space, if we're honest, we're hurting. And this is what happened with Samson. So it doesn't get any better from here. When the Philistines asked, "Who did this?" they were told, "Samson the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion." Now watch this. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Understand that this was traumatic for Samson. There have been some traumatic things that have happened in your life. And what we're starting to see as he's being impacted, trauma after trauma, is that he begins to make trauma-driven decisions, something called trauma-driven decisions, of where if we're not aware of it, something begins to happen psychologically where, and the word is a dysregulation, where our emotions go out of whack. Physiologically, sometimes it shows up on our bodies, on our skin, acne, all different kinds of stuff. But it goes out of whack because that trigger of, I may not ever be loved again. I've just been abandoned. And so you have a feeling of, I need to do something to stop this pain. You don't care if the stopping of the pain is temporary or will last a long time. You just need it to stop. And so we see what happens next to Samson. It says, verse 7, Samson said to them, "Since you acted like this, I swear that I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." And you can, even reading that sentence thousands of years later, you feel the gravity in that. You know that he meant that, and the person that said it was someone that their rage is going to cause all kinds of trouble. So He goes on and says, I'm going to get my revenge. But where for us, when we think about this, where did our anger issues come from? Similar to Samson, every single one of us, at our lowest common denominator, every single one of us has a desire to be loved and to belong. And anytime one or both of those things is impacted and is not fixed or healed, trouble comes after. Trouble comes after. So somewhere he felt helpless, this big, strong X-Man of a man. His heart was hurting, and he felt weak. He felt vulnerable. He felt open to the enemy's attack. Now, I find this interesting. In Judges chapter 16, we see his life start going on this lower trend. So that traumatic event just happened. I don't care that his friend had now taken his wife. She was dead now. And the person that he loved, he could never speak to again. And so now dealing with this, Judges 16, verse 1, we see one day Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. You think that was by accident? That in these challenging situations, in these challenging moments, the enemy has the desire to take your weakness and use it to destroy you. So this was not his first time in Gaza. And yet at the time now where he has lost a wife that for all intents and purposes, his friend had cheated on him, she had cheated on him, but now she's dead, and now he goes about his daily business and he meets a prostitute. Someone that has some traumatic issues as well. And something happens called trauma bonding. Where now, you've been hurt, I've been hurt too. Somebody walked out on you, somebody abandoned you, somebody just abandoned me. And then now all of a sudden, you think that kind of connection is one that will help to solve the issues of loneliness that you have in your heart, but really it's a connection based upon a toxic situation. So he says he went in to spend the night with her. You see, Samson, he was dealing with some real issues. Now, Samson, we didn't talk about this before, but Samson lived a certain kind of life. He was someone called a Nazirite. There is a select group of people that either by your parents calling you into this certain lifestyle that is a separated lifestyle from kind of the regular stuff, or you declare it yourself. He made a vow to God. Samson had made this vow that as a Nazirite, he would do these things. One, he wasn't going to let any alcohol touch his lips. He wasn't going to drink. He also vowed that he would not touch any deadly thing. And the third that he vowed is that he would not shave his hair. And these vows came as a result of a heart that says, God, I want to be obedient to you. So here we have this Nazarite. Here we have this holy person, y'all. This person that has made a vow to the Lord. I'm coming for you. Has made a vow to the Lord. And yet, because there is undealt with hurt and abandonment issues and trauma, he finds himself in the bed of a prostitute. And so I want to ask you, what do you do when you're supposed to be holy, but you're attracted to relationships that are holy? Because it's real. Because it's the truth. Because in this room and on the stream, we've been there. We've been there. God, I serve you. God, I love you. But there's something inside of us that also got a little taste for. A little taste for something different. So what do you do? And y'all, I'm reminded of this time in college, and the names of the people in this story have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty, right? So I remember in college, this was my sophomore year, and my roommate, shout out to my roommate, still love him to this day. He had given his life to the Lord, was sold out for the Lord, and we were doing great things for God on campus. People were getting healed, like literally, like physical healings were taking place. People were getting saved, coming out of all different kinds of places. And I met this track star. Somebody say, heaven help us. I met this track star, and she was beautiful, you all. And she sang in the UW gospel choir. So I'm like, God, she wasn't a Philistine. Right? She loved you. And we had begun to develop a relationship, but my roommate said, AB, watch out, bro. Because she also has a boyfriend that's a fullback for the UW football team. So y'all know it's about to be messy. Right? So I'm like, I'm cool, I got it. I'm operating in that super self. Nothing can harm me. I'm B. McKee, you know? I'm operating in that super self. So there was one weekend, and I remember that it was Halloween weekend. And now this is a whole other message going into a lot of the levels of spiritual warfare and a lot of different things, even in Wisconsin, and you know, different things that take place, and intentional witchcraft, all that kind of stuff. But my roommate was going home for the weekend to Milwaukee. Said, B, you need to come home with me, man. I sense that you just need to come home. And I'm like, I'm good. And then I get the call, she want to hang out. You know, she want to hang out, so I'm like, cool. You want to hang out? I want to hang out. But now I had already planned that there was a certain time that we weren't going to go past, right? Because I knew that after a certain time, the wolf come out. The full moon, the teeth, all of that, right? See, y'all don't want to be real in here. Every single one of y'all got some he wolves and some she wolves. Y'all got some teen wolves and some adult wolves. So I was like, so cool. So nah, you go ahead, go home, bro, and I'll be good. And she had come to the dorm room, and we were gonna watch a movie. We were going to get a pizza. Everything was gonna be early, and then she was gonna go home. Well, unfortunately, during that particular weekend, and especially because it was, the Halloween weekend, and there's a lot of parties and different stuff going on, the pizza that we had ordered at a certain time, they were so inundated with orders and different things that we kept on getting the calls back. No, it's going to take a little bit longer. No, it's going to take a little bit longer. No, it's going to take a little bit longer. And so all throughout this time, like, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. Both ways, freaking out. And y'all get that later. And I'm like, okay, something don't feel right, And then, I'm holy, I love the Lord. I'm trying to act like it was just the other person, but it really wasn't. And then she makes advances. And when she makes advances, eventually, I don't say no. So what happened. And then, y'all should have had y'all kids in Kid City. What happened. And then the guilt and the shame hits next. The guilt and the shame hits, and I call my roommate. I'm in tears, like, man, I should have listened to you, bro. Like, all of these different things, all of a sudden, after the moment, isn't that crazy that after you fall and make a mistake, that then the enemy want to try and come and then just tell you how horrible you are and how unbelievable you are. And so all of that stuff was happening, but then something else happened that I was not ready for. That night when I went to sleep, I began to have dreams about somebody else's trauma that I had never experienced before. And I would wake up, and it was hard for me to go to class because it seemed like I was wrestling with some stuff, with some hurt and some pain and some spirits that were not mine. And so it took some time, and it took deliverance. It took some accountability. My roommate stayed on me, prayed with me, had to snatch me out of some places. Y'all don't hear me. Until the commitment that I was making with my mouth was my feet were lining up with that same commitment again. And so where has abandonment led you? Where has trauma led you? Listen, there are few things more dangerous than a hurt, an abandoned, an angry man or woman. Where has it led you? And have you been hurt so badly that you love transactions now more than true commitments? That maybe you're not engaging in it yet because the opportunity hadn't presented itself quite yet. Or maybe you have, but now you're in a phase and you're in a state because you have said that I would never be hurt like that ever again in my life, that you have settled with transactions instead of commitments. Judges 16. Told you, this is a whole different Samson. We looking, yay, look. Verse 2. Because the fall is never as secret as you want it to be. The people of Gaza were told, somebody told, Samson is here. So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him at night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, at dawn we will kill him. You see, this kind of trauma that he thought that, okay, this transaction that I make, this will make me, I just need to get this up off me. I'm going through a little bit of something right now. And you know how we convince ourselves that what we're doing is, I just, this pressure and everything is so heavy. And, so I just need one night. I just need one night and I'll be good. But he didn't realize that him exposing himself in that trauma bond was giving the enemy room to take the kill shot. So for us, it's important to know that in our challenges, that in our struggles, that there is so much potential in our lives that the enemy is not trying to waste opportunity to take you out. And so they did this, and God had grace on them, because we see, verse 3, but Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate together with the two posts and tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Sometime later, watch this. Let's not show that yet. Let's go back. Something else, listen. For those of us that are familiar with Samson's life story because of the scriptures, this historical event that actually took place, we know that eventually he meets a Delilah. But understand this. Delilah was always going to happen because the prostitute happened first. That his demise and him opening himself up and sharing secrets with those that were not vetted enough to be in those spaces in his life, it was always going to happen because he had already begun opening himself up to dangerous places and people for the sake of transaction, but without the commitment. So verse 4, we see, sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Syric, whose name was Delilah. Now, you're strong. You could do hard things, right? We know that's a common phrase now. And you can. You can do hard things. But if you don't heal, your lack of boundaries will snuff out your future. So I want to give us some help real quick, and then we'll jump back in, just because we're going to come up for air just for a quick second, because I know that this is heavy. So here are a few points that are going to help us in our healing. This first one, it connects with the first week or so that we explored our 21-day fast. We had started on this love of God, this agape love, and how it is a love not based upon what we do, how we act or what we say, but it's a love that loves us into healing. And it's important for us that if we are going to move from this place that we are in, because I feel like all of us right now saying like, I am Samson. I am him. I'm Samson. That if we're going to move from this place, that there's one thing that we first must do. And I believe that as we lean into the season over these next 4 weeks, that we are going to get a deeper and a fuller understanding of the love of God for us. Because look, when you really understand the love of God for you at a certain level, then it doesn't matter who don't like you. It doesn't matter who abandons you. Yeah, it hurts for a little while, but it will not lead you into trauma-driven decisions that will snuff out your future. So that's one of the things that over these next several weeks we are going to explore in depth. The love of God, how great the Father's love is for me. We're going to explore that. We're going to explore that. But now let's see. Next, okay, he loved this woman named Delilah. Then verse 5 says, the rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, see if you can lure him to showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver. Listen, there is a backroom conversation that is taking place related to how it can snuff out your purpose. And I hate to pull the wool off of our eyes, but look, some of those things that you're loving will sell you out for a dozen of eggs. And y'all know eggs expensive right now. They're like gold. Some of those things that you are loving will sell you out for a carton of eggs. And because we have not vetted them, because we thought that the transactional kind of relationship was cool because it temporarily puts a pause on the pain. But there's a whole other discussion that's going on. And so this is what happened to Samson. And understand, we can go ahead and go in. We give way too much of ourselves to people not qualified to know us. We're giving stuff away. We're ready to risk it all, y'all. Just so that pain that we're feeling that has taken priority over the love of God, just for a moment, if I could just have that pain just stopped for a moment, then I'll be good. And we feel like that, and we continue to get into these deeper bonds. And maybe for you it's not relationship that way. Maybe for you it's like, okay, if I could just spend this at Target, if I could just spend some time. You know, they're not throwing stuff into your basket at Target. You doing that. Or you're thinking that maybe if I can climb this corporate ladder, or maybe if I could just be the one that everybody turns to on the job to fix the problem, that maybe that will fix the hole that's inside of my heart. But what you're realizing, and you're beginning to realize, is that none of this stuff is lasting, and none of it at night when nobody else is around is actually keeping me from this place of peace. The peace isn't there. And so I want us to begin to ask ourselves, when we come into these connections, are you doing a background check on these people? Are you doing a background check? Now, when we want a new product, we'll go into Amazon and go to the reviews, and we'll watch videos, and we'll Google stuff. We'll do all of this stuff. But then when it comes to somebody that we like, we'll just let them into all of the rooms. And so what we have to get to is this point of saying, okay, God, I have to seek after you to understand how you really love me, because if I can understand how you really love me, then I won't settle for second best anymore. We see here with Delilah that time after time after time, she was asking Samson, hey, what's the secret to your strength so that I can bind you? Literally, she was telling him what she wanted to do. So I started to wonder, what would put a man or put an individual in a place where they would share the secrets of their heart to someone or a situation that is telling them what they want to do to them. And so as I was praying this thing through and I started to consider, I said, okay, there are a couple of reasons. One is that the trauma-driven decisions that the super self is saying, I can handle whatever comes. I just want this pain to subside. I just want this pain to be over. So I'm going to put my head in their lap. I'm going to put my head in her lap. I'm going to put my head in his lap because then I can get this pain to stop. But then I started thinking about a second reason. And this is the reason I believe, well, both of them, but even this one that maybe we haven't uncovered yet. Maybe he was willing to give away his secrets because after all of this time, Samson had just been used to being this superhero kind of person. That's all people saw about him. That's all people cared about him, that they even wanted to be around him because they felt that they would get some kind of notoriety. They thought that they would get some kind of publicity by being around this superhuman person. But nobody really knew him. Nobody really felt to the depth and to the level where his heart really was. And so maybe he said, God, I'm tired. God, I know that you anointed me. I know that you empowered me. But God, I'm tired. I'm tired of living up to this super self. I'm tired. I'm tired when I'm weak inside. I'm tired when I'm abandoned inside. I'm tired when nobody understands me. God, I would rather give it up and give my strength up so that I can feel love. And so if one of those two were you, I just want you to stand at this time. I just want you to stand at this time because we're going to pray. We're going to pray. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Come on. Thank you, Jesus. So here's the thing. If one of those is you, we need you to come to the altar right now. Our prayer team, wherever y'all at, y'all should have been here already. But let's go before God. If that's you, I want to see you down here at this altar. Father, I'm tired. Father, I need your help. Father, I know that you have given me a purpose. I hear time and time again the strength I have, the ingenuity that I have. I hear time and time again of how I'm able to work out problems and situations, but nobody understands me. God, I feel abandoned. God, I feel lonely. God, I feel like nobody cares. God, I need you. God, I need you. God, I need you. There's a couple more that need to be on this altar. There's a couple more that need to be on this altar right now. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. The thing that I love about God is that even while Samson had given up his anointing and said, here, take it. You want to know the secret to my strength? It's in my hair. Not that it's in my hair, but it's that level of obedience that I have to God. That if I surrender that level of obedience to God, I have no more strength. And so even after he had given that up, and they had taken him, bound him in chains, and gouged his eyes out, eyes representative of vision, where he could no longer see. In the time where he surrendered his obedience, the next thing that happened is his vision went. But after that, when he cried out to God, I need a little bit more volume in the monitors. When he cried out to God, his hair began to grow back. His hair began to grow back, which tells me that you may be tired, you may be feeling weak, you may be feeling abandoned, but surrender your life to God, surrender your heart to God. It's time for your hair to grow back. And if that's you, if it's time for your hair to grow back, I want to see you on the altar. I want to see you on the altar. I can feel that my hair is growing back. I can feel that my hair is growing back. I can feel that my strength is coming back. I feel that my desire to be holy is coming back. I feel that my desire, God, to love you like never before is coming back, God. I'm sorry for what I did before, God, but I thank you that you still are listening. I thank you that you still love me. I thank you that you are still having a purpose and a plan for my life, God. And I give you my life. I give you my life. I give you my life, God. Everything that I am, everything that I am not. Father, I give it all to you, God. I give it all to you, God. I give it to you today. I give it to you. No more holding back. No more making excuses. No more latching on to things that are just transactional, Father. I want to make a commitment. I want to make a commitment. I want to make a commitment to you, God. I'm saying yes to you today. I'm saying yes to you today. Come on, let's seek him. Let's go after him. Let's go after him. I'm seeing the burden is coming off of our shoulders. And God is breathing freedom into our lives again. God is breathing freedom into our lives again. Freedom. God, your word declares that who the Son sets free, that they are free indeed. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. God, I thank you. God, I thank you. So, Father, as we are here with our hands and our hearts lifted to you, we acknowledge that over the course of our lives, we have been hurt. We've been scarred. We've been wounded. At times it felt like we wouldn't be able to recover. But today we are here. We are here with hands lifted. We are here surrendering to you. God, because you made us a promise through Samson's life that although we risked it all, God, you're allowing our hair to grow back. We say yes to you, God. We say yes to the counsel of your will. We say yes to your purpose. We say yes to renewal. We say yes to revitalization. We say yes to our purpose again. Heal us from the inside out. The places that no one else knows about because we have constructed a self that was not our own. Heal us, God. Heal us. God, just like Jacob in the Bible, who wrestled with the angel, God, we won't let you go until you bless us. We won't let you go until you change our name, until you give us a name that means purpose, that means reassurance, that means that we are loved. God, we thank you. Here's the last thing that we're going to do, and we're going to continue to let the altar go on. You can feel free. But every single week we have an actionable step. What is the next step? Because your deliverance has begun here at the altar, surrender to God. But there is the next step, so we can see it. This week begins our next 8 to 10 weeks of our small group Bible studies, where we'll be digging deeper into this sermon through the Bible. We'll be digging deeper into what it means to have our vulnerabilities corrected and recalibrated to what God wants in our lives so that we can live a full, a healthy, a blessed life. It's important that you find a small group to be part of. Whether that's Monday, whether that's Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Wednesday at 6:30, from 6:30 to 7. We're going to have some refreshments, and then at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, we're going to dive deeper into this message in our small group Bible study. You're going to find other people that are going in a positive direction just like you want to. You're going to find community and accountability. Sunday is not enough. Somebody say Sunday is not enough. Sunday is not enough. So I look forward to seeing you this week in our small group Bible studies. Let's continue to go before God. Live stream family, online family, we love you all. We look forward to seeing you next week.